A mochi moment from Tara, who writes, "For years, all my doctor said was eat less and move more, which never worked. But you know what does? The simple eating tips from my nutritionist at Mochi. And after losing over 30 pounds, I can say you're not just another GLP-1 source. You're a life source." Thanks, Tara. I'm Myra Ahmed, founder of Mochi Health. To find your Mochi moment, visit joinmochi.com.
Tara is a Mochi member compensated for her story.
Midlife is really a second adolescence, and it feels stretchy and uncomfy and hormonal and emotional. And there's so many shifts in identity and purpose and relationships that it's just such a period of transition. Like adolescence is a period of transition and
You're
growth, and it
right.
just feels
Yeah.
stretchy and uncomfy. And so it's really about, for myself too, just getting comfortable with the ups and the downs and the bumps and the bruises, just losing, my dad just passing and my mom very close, right? And how that feels so different, like how I feel different. And I knew I had so much anticipatory grief. Like I knew we
Yeah.
were on this path. Like I've had, months of quote unquote preparation, right? And still yet is still like, wow, just
Yeah, it never hits you the way you think. I
think.
mean,
Emotionally unavailable.
Welcome to Emotionally Unavailable, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of emotional availability and intimacy. I'm your host, Malisa Hepner, and I can't tell you how excited I am to have you join me on this journey of self-discovery and connection. Whether you're navigating the complexities of relationships or exploring your own emotional landscape, this podcast is here to inspire, empower, and entertain. So get cozy and let's explore the depths of human emotions together.
hi guys, happy Friday. Today's guest is Dr. Sue McCreadie. She's a pediatrician and midlife transformation expert for women. I'm going to read her little thing here. She's a holistic pediatrician and midlife transformation expert who helps women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s navigate hormones, heartbreak, and healing so they can stop settling and start living with joy. Her mission: to make transformation simple, soulful, and even fun, because when women rise, we raise the vibration of the world for our children. We had such a delightful conversation. Like, really, it just felt like meeting a new friend for coffee, very just kind and open and real and raw. And yeah, she just gave from a very authentic place, and I was really grateful. And I just really enjoyed our conversation so much. So I know you guys will too. I'm going to keep this intro short today. I'm just tired and busy. So thank you for being here. I love each and every one of you so much. And whether it's your first time listening or, your 200 whatever episode we're on, I'm so grateful that you're here, like from the bottom of my heart. And please be patient with ads, but if you hate ads, go subscribe to the Patreon. So, all right, I love you. Here's me and Sue.
Emotionally unavailable.
I didn't check anything because I went to take your quiz because I was like, oh, that'll be cute to talk about. But then that's when I recognized that I had an internet failure, and I was like, cool, 5 minutes before we're supposed to start. I love this for me. And so I was like, okay, what's going on? I'd unplugged something, and anyway, it was a whole thing. So I didn't get to take your quiz. Now I'm gonna have to take it later. So just when you see that pop up in your thing, you'll see that I actually did do it.
Oh, thank you.
It sounds like a really cool quiz. I'm this is what's funny about me, and I've told this story a lot, but like the whole reason for this show is because I'm a person who takes a quiz. I mean, you put a quiz up, I love them. I don't know what my problem. Don't love academic ones, but like, which Grey's Anatomy character are you? If you were an animal, what would you be? Whatever the quiz may be, I'm like, or what's your special number? So, I learned that I was emotionally unavailable through a quiz. Like I
Really?
I've taken the "Are you a narcissist?" Like, I mean, or even that one was a good one to take actually, because I did have a lot of narcissist tendencies, but, like, I would be like, "Are you in an abusive relationship?" And I would not at all feel like I would be in an abusive relationship, but I'm like, "Hey, you know what? The quiz might say something different." So that's kinda how this show came about, is because I was like, "I don't think I'm emotionally unavailable," because I was real good at trauma dumping, and so and trauma bonding with people. So, like, I thought, "I'm open." Oh, it's been a whole
Mm,
little couple-year journey, but anyway, it's so nice to meet you.
that's
Um,
beautiful. It's nice to meet you too, Melissa. Thanks for
well,
having me.
you're so welcome. I'm so curious because you work on 2 ends of the spectrum, as
Hmm.
a pediatrician and a midlife transformation expert. How in the hell did you I'm as I feel like I probably already know the answer, but I would love to hear you explain how you got into the work.
Hmm. Well, I actually thought I wanted to be a psychiatrist when I went into med school. I was inspired to go into med school by my mom, who is or was an emergency room nurse back in the day.
Okay.
And that was when you could take your kid to, remember how we had those like take your child to work days? I don't know if
Yeah.
you remember those. But back in the 80s, you could even take your child to the ER. If that's where you were,
Wow.
you could take your child to the ER. So that's where I went. I went with mom to the ER. And I fell in love with what I saw, which is just her taking care of other people, and seeing people get better. And I was like, wait a minute, maybe this is for me, right? So I said, Mom, I want to be what you are. I want to be a nurse. And she said, don't be a
Oh.
nurse, be a doctor. My mom is very alpha female. She's like, give the orders, don't take the orders. I was like,
Uh-huh.
okay.
She was ahead of her
Um,
time.
she was ahead of her time for sure. I mean, that was a time where, women graduated and either went into education, they became teachers, or they became nurses.
Yep.
It was rare for anyone to do otherwise. So she was pretty adamant, and I listened, and I just followed suit. But I actually went into med school thinking that I wanted to be a psychiatrist because, well, I love human nature. I love I love the study of behavior. I think our behavior is fascinating, of why
Yes.
we do the things we do, and how we all come into this world just, these beautiful little sentient beings, right? And then we're in this environment, and that how that environment shapes us, and how we learn these survival skills, and how that can work up into a point until it doesn't
Yep.
work so well. Right?
Yes.
And then we get to
Jesus,
grow
yes.
and transform. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, I landed on pediatrics because I also love kids. I love women and children. I just love that whole relationship. And I fell in love with kids when I did the rotation, which I did not fall in love with psychiatry when I did that rotation. I was like,
Yeah. I'm
hmm.
not surprised. I mean, it's not you don't get to do as much of the stuff that you really wanna do in that field. It's like
Yeah.
15
And you're a
minutes.
therapist, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so to me, I felt like that's what I really wanted to do, right? But what I saw was like, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm do a lot of medical management, which is just what it is. So
Yeah.
I I went into pediatrics, and in my practice, I was exposed in med school to alternative ways of healing. And it actually came through a friend who said, "Will you do this alternative medicine rotation with me?" And I said, "Sure. Will you do this pediatric neurosurgery rotation with me?" Because I love the brain. I love neurology. I never thought I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, though I
Yeah.
did love this woman who was an incredible doctor, just incredible human, just
Yeah.
humble and smart. And just the way she treated and was around patients, I was like, I want to learn from her. So
Mhm.
he jumped on that rotation. I jumped on the other one. He became a neurosurgeon, my friend, and I became an alternative medicine practitioner, which I just think is
Wow.
like so divine, right? Like if you
Yes.
just open yourself to the invitation, there was curiosity there. And I learned about Reiki, and I learned about healing through nutrition. And it just kind of opened the doorway for me to explore all these different ways. And through my pediatric residency, I didn't do much. I did what I could. I explored, cranial sacral therapy. And by the end, I was like, I do not think I'm gonna fit into this cookie cutter, like, pediatric practice. So I
I
just
resonate
launched
with that so much.
yeah, I just launched my own thing, you know?
I love
And
that.
and it was
So do you
during
have your own like, are you a private practitioner then?
mhm,
You're not okay.
yeah.
Man, I love this. I love and also I wanna, like, point out too, in the divinity, it was also, like, you following your intuition by, like, going where the energy led, because if this person,
Mhm.
all of her energy felt so warm and good for you to be following and you listened, you did that. I mean, that was part of it too, because I think the people we're supposed to meet, we meet them and you have to decide what you're gonna do with the interaction, and you did that. I think that's so cool, and I love it.
Mhm.
I love that you saw so early that you weren't gonna fit into tradition, we'll say, because for me as a therapist, it took so long because I had to do some healing,
Right.
but I can remember in the early days even, like, learning certain things and thinking, "Oh, I think that's kinda stupid." I think that rule is dumb, or, like what we're taught
Mhm.
about self-disclosure and how to behave with clients,
Yes.
things like that, and
Mhm.
I'm like, "No." Once I went through the process of becoming, like, as much as possible, it's an evolution, but my most authentic self and feeling
Yeah.
really in alignment, I was like, "I don't care, I'm doing it the way I want because that's my magic." Like, that's how I'm such a good
Mhm.
therapist, is, like, being me, and so I don't talk any different to you than I would a client, to my husband, my children, other people's children. Like, I don't wanna wear any more masks, and so I think that's so cool that you really identified that early on, like, I can kinda do this how I want to.
Yeah, and let's be clear that I definitely wore masks, like,
Yeah.
during med school, during residency, 1,000%, like, put on a masculine mask and was like, "Let's do.
Yep.
Let's
Yep.
let's get her done."
Although, how
Um
could you not? Let's be real, how grueling that
mhm,
whole process is, it does kind of
mhm.
require a lot of masculine energy. I mean, that's the
It
thing that
does.
says, "Let's get shit done." So, I
Let's
can kind of
yeah.
understand that, and you were young.
Yeah, and you're young. And I think the greatest physicians like flex and greatest human beings
Yep.
flex between masculine and feminine energy. But yeah, most of my training is all masculine energy, and every once in a while, like my feminine would come true in very just gorgeous places. Like one of them, I remember. I think of like one of my he was, like, a couple years ahead of me, right? Like a senior resident sort of thing. And he was like, "Sue, I want you to go in and, interview this patient." It's like a 3-year-old with no adult there.
Yeah.
And she didn't speak our language. She was there with malaria. And like he was trying to examine her and she would start crying, right? And I went in there and just did my thing. I did my like feminine way of being, right? I was open. I was like talking to her in my head, like, "You're safe," like doing all my things, you know? And he just looked at me like, "How did you do that?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"I don't know how you do you." Like, he knew all the facts. Like, if you need to know anything about malaria, dude, he's got the answer,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Versus me, I'm like, "I don't know those facts and figures. I can look them up for you." However, to, like, be with somebody else and let them know that they're safe and seen, like, I can do that, you know? So there were moments during it that it would shine through for sure.
Yeah.
I'll never forget him, like, walking out of the room with being like, "What just happened? How did you do
He's like,
that?"
"Tell me
Yeah.
your secrets."
"Tell
Yeah.
me your secrets."
Yes,
Um,
I love that.
yeah, so lots of masks for sure, and just like you, like, learning how to take them off, learning how to be my authentic self, coming out of my shell, just like, I mean, I've been in practice for 23 years, so if you think about, like, a quarter century ago, alternative medicine was weird. Like,
Oh,
taking
you were
probiotics was like
whack.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas now everybody takes a probiotic, everybody's
Yep.
like, "What's your supplement regimen?" But back then, that was weird, that was different, that was strange. However, I just felt, like you said, like, that feels right for me, that feels like the place I'm to be, that feels like I'm here to give people a home that didn't otherwise have a home. I work with a lot of kids who like what I say are falling through the cracks of standard medicine. Like
Mhm.
they're doing all the things, they're doing the diagnostic tests, they're taking the medication, but yet their symptoms aren't going away. And so through that process and through just practice and systems, like I'm sure you developed your own, right? Then I'm able to really help them restore and rebalance health through, nutrition in my practice. But how I got to working with midlife women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, again, same thing, right? Melissa, is just like following your heart, following your instinct, following the breadcrumbs, following the intuition. I just kept, women kept saying, like, how can you help me? And I kept trying. Like, I would be like, what
Mhm.
about this? And like, it was a miss. And then they're like, I want you to do this. And I'm like, but that doesn't feel right for me. Right. And so it was like 4 entrepreneurial journeys, that didn't work out. And then
Yeah.
landing on this one where it's like, okay, I love this. I love coaching women. And it makes sense. It's like a full circle moment. I was like, I went to med school to be a psychiatrist. I went in because I love human behavior and, helping people heal, emotionally and be happy. And so now I'm just doing that like in a different form as a coach for midlife women.
I love that. I love that so much, and I imagine too, it's like, especially when you're really tapped in, I I feel like for myself, this is my experience more recently, so I kinda wonder if it's yours too, where working on that spectrum, um, b because I feel like I see people's inner child more than I see who they are right here, right now, like,
Mhm.
I feel like I'm pretty good even at intuitively, like, "I think you got stuck around this age," you know what I mean?
Yeah, beautiful.
But,
Mhm.
like, then you see kids, and I'm, like, drawn to the process of the way they're developing. Like, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm just
Mm.
the parallel between you and this person that's this age and, like, who got stuck around your age." Like, I just watch these kids. I don't, like, work with kids really anymore, but I did last year, and I was just amazed at, like, gosh, this is how it happens right here. Like, you're at that phase where people get stuck, you know what I mean? So, do you have
Mhm.
that experience too?
Yes, and in my pediatric practice, I'm really focused on the symptoms, right, and getting them to resolve. In my coaching practice, I work a lot with Ericksonian developmental stages, right, where we're, the theory that we're all going through these developmental stages and we can get stuck. Like if we go through an experience where we're testing our independence, right, and we're shunned or shamed or shut down for whatever reasons, right? Like we can really not grow necessarily like grow through that phase. And so there's a part of us who's still cycling, who's still working to develop that, right?
Yeah.
Um, and like one of them, Melissa, like and like you say, it's like an evolution. I'm still in personal growth. Like it'll never stop. My dad just passed and he is 92. And I'm telling you, he was
Wow.
growing up until the last day,
Yeah.
right? Like there was still spiritual growth happening.
I
One of
love
the
that.
things Yeah, I do too. I do too. One of the things that, I'm working with right now is, because I saw you have like a workshop or workbook on it, is being
Mhm.
seen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And there's this part of me as a little, preschooler that felt like I get to be safe by being quiet. Like, if I'm
Mhm.
quiet in this household, I'm gonna be safe, versus if I'm too loud, if I'm too much, if I'm too crazy, it's gonna
Yep.
create more chaos, and we don't need more chaos in this household. We need more calm, right? And so just really working with that inner part, the little inner preschooler, who's like,
Yeah.
"It's okay, Sue. Like, you can shine, like, and so I
Yeah.
do a lot of work with women around that too. It's just I think it's cool. It's like almost like I am a pediatrician, but I'm now like helping the inner child heal
Yes.
within
That's
within the
exactly what you're
midlife
doing.
within the midlife woman, right? So it's like it's a
Yes.
very cool evolution.
When I first came across, like, the concept of reparenting, I was like, "Well, hello." Like, I absolutely needed that, and I think when we start to understand that every single one of us is stuck in every one of these ways at least a little bit and to figure out
Mhm.
your particular patterns, I think that's where almost the awakening really happens because
Mhm.
it's not just if you experienced this or that, it's all of us because nobody is capable of meeting every one of your emotional developmental needs. Nobody.
Amen.
So even if you had good parents, good, you know, like if even if your parents didn't beat the shit out of you or whatever, you know, like you didn't get all of your needs met. And we
Mhm.
learned maladaptive coping from a very young age. And so for me, it was like really eye opening to be like, oh, this is why I still feel betrayed all the time. Like just
Mhm.
understanding, like, oh, my expectations weren't met. And I learned how to create this fantasy world of expectations and then to feel very betrayed by it and blame that betrayal on everyone around me. I mean, my
Mhm.
victim consciousness really that's really when things changed for me, like, "Oh, okay, I'm the problem, great."
I
But
love how you say patterns too, because I love really honing that for women. It's like it's not
Mhm.
you, it's just a pattern, right? And
Right.
talking about betrayal reminded me of one of the women that I work with. And she was so sweet. She was kind of teed off because work like she was working at work and she felt like everybody else at work was working on their side project and she's really passionate about her side projects, but was actually staying in line with integrity of doing the work that she was hired to do, right? And so I said, "Okay," like, I always think about, like, the problem's never really the problem. Like, what is this really? And so we talked about integrity, we talked about betrayal, and then how that was happening in her own household with, one of her children was
Mhm.
it was experiencing this, right? And I said, "Okay." And, like and it was just so cool to get to, like, the root of it. It was about how her dad, she felt betrayed by her dad because there was so much infidelity in her parents'
Mhm.
marriage, right? And when I love the ahas, like, when she, like, literally, like, backed up, and she was like, "Oh my gosh," and I was like, "The problem's never
Yes.
the problem, it's just, like, a pattern that's, like, resurfacing until you acknowledge that, until you integrate that and say, 'You know what? Where am I betraying myself? Like, where am I not in
Yes.
line with my own integrity?'" Right? And just, like, integrating that so we can turn the page and
Right.
move to the
Yeah,
next.
I love
Yeah.
the way you're framing that, especially because the problem is also never with someone else. Like,
Mm.
you may feel like their behavior is the problem, and God knows I was the queen of feeling like everybody else's behavior was the problem, and then when I learned, like, no, this is just triggering a feeling that I've had 1,000 times that I've never addressed ever.
Mhm.
Like, because, man, shame, it is real, and I remember when I felt because betrayal is my biggest wound, and so
Mm.
I remember the first time it feeling like it kinda feels like betrayal, but feeling so stupid and embarrassed and ashamed that I would feel
Mm.
that over something that's seemingly so insignificant. Because I knew I had the sense that the reaction was so incongruent
Mm.
with the size of the problem, but I couldn't make that connection. That in fact, I can't remember how many times I would say, like, "What do you do when logically you know you're overreacting?" Because I had none of this information, but I'd be like, "I know this is dumb that I'm reacting this way,
Mhm.
but I can't stop it." And so that was the thing is I didn't know where it was coming from, but now that I do, boy, it's such an easy process to be like, "Oh, I know what's coming up." And I'm not here to blame anyone else for the fact that that's what's coming up. I'll just let you know how you can help me with what I'm experiencing right now, you know?
Right. Yeah. How can we support you? What do you need? Right.
Yeah. What do you find because I see, I saw in your profile that a lot of the work you do is just like helping, people in their midlife find meaning and maybe even
Mhm.
purpose. What do you find is like for lack of a better way to phrase this, what's the most common struggle you're seeing with women in their midlife?
Mhm. A lot of relationships, like relationship with self, like
Mhm.
loving yourself, relationship with adult children who move home.
Baby, yes. It's a good thing I was in the process of actually, I was at the tail end of a mental health crisis and had just had, like, a spiritual awakening when my oldest moved back home to go to
Mm,
college again, like, he was
yeah.
taking another try. So he left me for that, but yeah, it's not easy.
Like, yeah, it can be a struggle. Though I still think they're activating things inside that you still haven't integrated, right? Um,
Absolutely. That's what
so
kids are so good at doing, aren't they?
they are. They're our greatest teachers. I
Yes.
love I love kids for that. Yeah, relationships like in terms of, I've worked with women who have experienced infidelity in their relationship, right? Where they don't wanna stay or they do wanna stay. They wanna be at peace regardless.
Yeah.
Women who have been divorced and they just get stuck, like
Yeah.
they never move forward. They haven't moved forward yet. So a lot of relationship things, a lot of transitioning careers, right? Like, what's my next evolution? Like, how do I get out of this thing that I used to do, bring me joy and it's not anymore, and what do I do after that?
Yeah.
Um, I just feel like midlife is really a second adolescence and it feels stretchy and uncomfy and hormonal and emotional. And
Yeah.
there's so many shifts in identity and purpose and relationships that it's just such a period of transition. Like adolescence is a period of transition and
You're
growth, and it
right.
just feels
Yeah.
stretchy and uncomfy. And so it's really about, for myself too, just getting comfortable with the ups and the downs and the bumps and the bruises, just losing, my dad just passing and my mom very close, right? And
Yeah.
how that feels so different, like how I feel different. And I had so much anticipatory grief, like I knew we were on
Yes.
this path. Like I've
Yes.
had, months of quote unquote preparation, right? And still yet is still like, wow, just
Yeah, it
wow.
never hits you the way you think. I mean,
Think.
obviously, how are you
Yeah,
gonna even conceive what that level of grief could feel like? But
right.
but I would imagine I lost my parents pretty young, but I worked in bereavement for a bajillion years. But I can imagine that at your age and with your father being at the age that he was, that you felt like you were going to be sad but fine because he's
Yeah,
had a good life, blah, blah, blah. And and it can be surprising how much of your identity shifts when you no longer have a father present on this earth. So it just hits you in a way that you can never preconceive, I think.
I agree. I agree. I feel decidedly different before and after that, and I'm
Mhm.
sure it'll be similar yet also different with moms, because moms' relationships are different than dads' relationships,
Right?
right? Um, and yeah, it almost felt like one of my grieving waves of it felt like a piece of my soul is just, like, taken, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
said that to my daughter, she's so sweet. My daughters are in their teens and young adults now, and one of them, I was sharing that, and she said, "Well, mom, it makes sense, like, when you pass, aren't you gonna wanna take some of me with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, a whole hunk of you I wanna take with with me.
Yeah, no,
I
that
take a
does make
whole hunk."
yeah, but also, like, the part of you who existed in the relationship with him is gone. Like, it is
Mm,
even scientifically with mirror neurons, like, that part of your brain isn't gonna light up the same way anymore. Like, everything changes when you lose someone, and that's what I think people when you talk about identity, man, like, it just everything shifts within your identity from a loss because so much of who we are was wrapped up in who we became because of these people who raised us, you know?
mhm. Well said, well said.
Well, so what man, I don't know why I haven't thought of midlife as another adolescence, but I love that because it really is. It's such shaky ground. I mean, I
Safety
I
ground,
entered
that's a great way
midlife
to say it.
in a really wild way, kind of. I mean, 40 was fine. In fact, I celebrated 40 really big because both of my parents didn't make it to 40. They were addicts, so, um,
Wow.
but, like, I was like, "Yay, 40," because, man, 20s are fucking rough. No 20s for me again, thank you. I wouldn't relive any of it. And then 30s, you're a little more financially stable, you're a little more confident, whatever. So the good stuff starts there. But man, when I hit 40, I was like, dang, I love 40s. And then just caught right in the middle of, I hate this job. I hate this career. I hate everything about what I'm
Mhm.
doing. And then real mental health crisis and the realization that I am nowhere near where I wanna be within. Like, that was the final understanding of, like, your childhood impacted you significantly. Like, you
Mm.
aren't just mean, you're not just a bitch, you're very reactive, you have to work on healing this inside thing. I mean, this is something every day I'm working on because my kids are 23, 18. Those 2 are from my first marriage, and then I have an 11-year-old with my husband. I hate saying current husband, but my second husband. And we've been married for, like, I don't know, 13 years or something. But,
Mm.
um, having children that far apart in age is interesting, and also, I'm still learning and reminding myself, like, it's your responsibility to stay safe within when this 11-year-old girl has really big feelings and wants to show those feelings very loudly in a way that doesn't feel good for me. And so I'm like, every day I'm learning new breath work. Every day I'm learning a new breath to be like, it's fine. You're holding your breath. Take it in. Like, this is fine. But I do recognize with my kids how so much of my mental health crisis was the shame they triggered in me because every time I made a mistake, it just
Mm.
compounded all that shame that was still there every time because I was living within, a perfectionist mindset. Without realizing it, like I thought I had addressed a lot of that and I did like at the very lowest surface, but like I didn't understand all the ways in which perfectionism was ruining things for me, but also just like I I guess I really thought that there were people who did everything right in parenting, like, that just never made mistakes. The same way I thought
Mm.
that there could possibly be a day where I just reached zen and I was perpetually unbothered. Like, I really thought, because when I first learned that I was emotionally unavailable, I was like, "Okay, I gotta learn how to be more vulnerable." So I was, like, working on that, but didn't even understand how many protective layers I had between me and everyone around me. I mean, everyone, to keep myself safe. So, like, maybe it's not hard to say this, but instead of saying this, Imma start a fight about something. Like,
Mhm.
I had a really tough time being vulnerable, but I was working on that, and then I just realized, like, damn, there's a lot here to fix. And so I just recognized, like, oh, okay, I'm trying to become this perfect person in essence and like Buddha, like and then I had to realize like those monks are so peaceful because they don't have any stress. Like they're literally doing what
I
they do and that's
I
it. They
have
don't have
the
children
same
shit bitching them.
I have the same that the best thing I ever did for my children is fail to be a super mom because I had the sense that I really in the beginning, I wanted to be the super mom. I wanted to do
Mhm,
everything quote unquote right, right?
mhm.
And that just made me feel miserable and also wasn't authentic. Like I would pretend I
Yeah.
like baking when I don't. I would pretend I like the water and swimming when I don't, right? And so
And you're
shift
miserable when you're doing stuff with them that you don't like.
yeah, and the fact that, like, they can see through all of this, right? So then as you grow and as they grow, right, sharing the things that I don't, and then allow how that brings like, that authenticity, right, is what really connects us, right? So when I go into the ocean and my daughter's like, "Mom, it's okay, like, breathe," like, she's holding my hand, right? And, like,
Yeah.
it's a way for us to connect rather than, me to pretend like, "This is so fun." when it's
We're
not.
doing great, aren't we? No, that is such a good
Yeah.
point because I used to feel a smidge guilty, a smidge, because by the time this third one rolled around, I recognized I hate playing with like dolls and
Mm,
shit,
yeah.
like sitting there making them pretend whatever. I loathe it. And so by the time she came around, I was like, "Listen, baby, your daddy has the patience of a saint, and he will do this with you all day. That's a dad play. I like to do this. We can do board games. We can do whatever. We can do makeup and hair. I'm all fine with that. But I'm not going to play pretend. I hate playing pretend." And so she like just learned that's not a mom task. That's a dad task, and it's okay. But I guess intuitively, I just started finding activities that didn't make me miserable because truly, if I'm just being 1,000% honest, I don't like momming small children. It was not my
Mhm.
forte. The baby stage, perfect. Real good at that. We can do this. I can even be sleep deprived. I'm the best newborn mom. We're great. But then once they start walking around and like getting into shit and you're just nonstop, no, 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 I was like, I can't do this. I mean, literally at 15 months with all three, I was like, okay, well, we could put you up for adoption for a couple years and I'd be all right. Like, I could not stand the toddler phase. About 4 was when I was like, "Oh my god, it's so magical, like, we're having great conversations." Like, I just don't like meaningless, like, oh, tasks because little kids require a lot of tasks, You gotta make all these food items or whatever, and it just was not it brought out so many of my weaknesses, truly, because I was like, "Ugh."
Mhm.
And it made me feel awful because I thought good moms enjoy all of these phases. I mean, I thought the mom I was going to be before these children were real was going to just love it. I mean, I was that kid that was fantasizing about vacuuming my floors and like making cookies for my kids. I mean, I'm sure I was just creating a world outside of the trauma I was living in, but still, like, I thought so many different things than what's actually happened. And I would just judge myself so harshly. And I don't think you have to. Some people don't like the newborn phase, some people don't like teenagers. I prefer a teenager. They're a little scary, but I prefer them.
Yeah, I think the authenticity of it all is, yeah, just being honest allows your kids to be honest with you too, right? Like one who
Mhm.
shared, I don't know if I want to have kids. Seems like a lot of work. I'm like, it is a lot of
Mhm.
work, right? So I feel like it's a growth opportunity for you to really own like who you are and what you love and what you like, yeah, don't really love that. And then also
Yeah.
giving them, the same um ability to share, what they like and what they don't like.
Yeah,
So,
well, it
yeah, a
shows
great
them that, like,
authenticity.
if a group is wanting to do an activity that's just not their favorite, that it's okay for them to be like, "I don't think I'm gonna go to that one," or, like,
Mhm.
I don't do kinda anything I don't wanna do anymore. Like, I don't go to a family activity if it doesn't sound fun, like, either with this immediate family or, like, my husband's family, like, whatever, I'm like, "I don't wanna do that, I'm not gonna do it," and I do feel like that's been helping my daughter say like or at least she'll ask me to help her to say no to stuff. Like, and we're
Yeah,
kind of in a co-regulation area with that where she's recognizing I don't wanna do this, but it's hard for me to say whatever. So I'm
absolutely.
more than willing to help her with that. But I can see where that's been an evolution that maybe wouldn't be there if she was seeing me say yes to everything.
Absolutely. I think that's a big part of I work with so on the personality quiz, which you haven't taken yet, but if you go to my website, take the quiz. It's a personality quiz, like what's your midlife personality? And there's 4 types.
Yeah.
And Um, one of the types, I'll go through them, quickly, but what you're touching on to me is like the giver type. So the visionary type is, like the Beyoncés of the world, like twirl on them haters. They're so confident. They're so courageous. We
Yes.
all like bow down. We're like, how
Yeah.
are you like that? Um, and that's their gift. Their obstacle or their challenge, their growth opportunity is really with vulnerability. So they very much like bowl over people in their way. So intimacy, really taking off the mask, really letting people see where they're vulnerable, who they truly are, can be a challenge for them. That's a visionary mama. The inspirational mama is like the the positive one, like the one who's all sunshine, the one who the glass is always half full, right? You go to them to feel better about the world. They're very magnetic, they light up a room. the downfall is they like shiny things and everything shiny and fun, and it can diffuse their energy because they get just overwhelmed and exhausted because they're going in a
Yeah.
million directions. The
Yeah.
giver mama, though, what you were touching upon, like the giver mama is just the mama of all mamas. She is just like the one who always listens. She's always there for you. She just wants to wrap you up in a great big hug. She's going to make you soup and bring it over. She's just like the ultimate caretaker. The problem, though, is that boundaries can be hard. Saying no can just feel like death. And so she ends
Yes.
up just saying yes to everything and eating it. And then she starts to feel resentful and bone dry, like all burnt toast, like just done. So I work with a lot of giver mamas, and that's a big thing that we work on is just the ability to say no. But the last one is the detail mama. They're like the spreadsheet makers. They're the organizers. They're the one dot our I's, cross our T's. I surround myself. I hire detail mamas because I am not
Yes,
that.
yes,
And
yes.
they're just making sure, like, everything's done, and the downfall or, like, their challenge is, like, they can just squeeze out the fun, like, everything's so measured and
If you're not
organized
doing
that,
it
like
exactly according to schedule and
yes,
whatever, then it's not
right,
happening correctly.
yeah. So I feel like a lot of women who I work with, the majority of women I work with, they are giver mamas. They're the ones who really struggle to say no. They're just the generous, kindest people in the world, and also they forget to be so generous and kind to themselves, you
Yeah.
know? So, yeah,
Yes, I feel like I've been every one of these at different points of motherhood, but
that's such a good
also
point. That's
yeah,
such a
but
good
also, like,
point.
each has its own struggles for sure. Like, I've definitely been since healing, I would say I see the easiest one to let go of was the, structured
Yeah.
mom, spreadsheet mom. I was her for but, I was raising boys who would psycho ass ADHD, one's got autism, like, I was like, "Okay, I'm the only one in this family with half a brain cell left, so let's, get it all
Let's
together,"
get
and then having
detailed.
a third, like, I was really and then I've recognized the hard parts of me to let go of with the giver stuff
Mhm.
with my boys, because 'cause they're older, cause like, the needs they have is usually some sort of financial thing or cause I mean, I don't mind being there for them, but even that's something I'm even working on is, like, making it known, like, when you enter my room and I'm working on something, just because this is the time that you need me is not always the time that I can be present for you. That's been a
Yes.
struggle. It's a struggle for me to ask them to help me in tasks around the
Mhm.
house, which is not I actually have tried to change the way all of us talk about that because it's not fucking me. We all live here and, but, like, for me to have to ask because the struggle is like, "Oh, I'm supposed to be able to do all of this," you know? Which is not real, but that's the narrative. But yeah, I can definitely see where each of these have been a predominant part of my motherhood or even pulling from each of them now. I do have struggles getting to the spreadsheet part of myself anymore because I've let go of perfectionism. So, but I ruined the fun in everything before. I mean, everything because I was also very reactive. So, in intense, agitated, and just controlling. You're not doing that right." So,
But
no
you do bring up a great point, and you bring up a great point, Melissa, that I mean, the reality is, like, we're all of these, it's just that we have a tendency to be weighted more in one area than the other, and the other thing is that we go through seasons, right, or even buckets, like, being a
yeah,
mom will really bring out the giver in me, right, whereas being a business owner, really brings out the visionary and the inspirational mama in me. Again, like you, Melissa, uh, tucked away the detail mama pretty far in there. So it takes like all of my energy to like get details done and cross the finish line, right? Though I hire people for that who stay on top of me to do those things and also do a lot of it for me. And also my growth opportunity. Like I always say, the divine is in the details. So like don't forget to look at the details because there's divinity in there,
yeah,
and when you miss those, like you may oversee you may unintentionally hurt someone.
yeah,
You may unintentionally hurt yourself, right? So I think just honoring that each of them have the gifts and the challenges and that we all have the capacity to keep growing ourselves. That's why I love like group coaching in my membership is because all these mamas are in there, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
the beauty is that we're in this together, that like when you see a visionary mama stand up to a, to a giver mama and say, girl, that is not okay. Like, it just gives the giver mama like, yeah, this isn't okay, right? It like just is so validating, right?
Yeah.
Or for the giver mama to say the visionary mama, like, I think you get to, be vulnerable. I think you get to share a little bit about yourself, right? So I love that.
I love it. Yeah, I don't think I've ever really been the real positive, like, rainbow sparkly I don't think that was ever me. I don't that's been very small part of my personality in general, I think. Well, no, that's not true. Actually, that's who I was w
When you were
in
little?
well, just always, like, in front of others, it was always not at home
Mhm.
because they got all of the shit I wasn't willing to share in the daily life, with
Yeah.
strangers or even acquaintances. So I came home and that's when the mask would drop and I had no pretending left in me and I was reactive. So they got the worst of me every single day. But out in public, it was very sunshine, rainbows, I mean, like with an edge. I've always been a little edgy, but like very, "We can do this," and, but not, like, addressing any real emotions or,
Right.
us women, we really feel like we're supposed to that's why sometimes I get frustrated, for lack of a better word, when people talk about, men's struggles so in such an isolation, and I can understand where they're coming from, but I also am like, yeah, maybe we weren't told to man up, but we were told other things that said,
Hmm.
we weren't allowed to cry that much more than boys were, like especially in like young childhood. Everyone in my generation and older that I know was told, "Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about." So it's not like we were always allowed to express
Mm.
things, And so while in general it's known and understood that women have emotions versus the men, feeling like they really don't or looking like they really don't. But I don't think we're that different, truly. I mean, biologically, yes, but in terms of our needs and whatever, when you get down to the core, I just don't think we're that different. And I don't think that there should be such like a conversation of like men like they have an increased sense that they can't show emotion. There are plenty of women like me who did not get vulnerable with others in
Mhm.
in the same
Yeah, I
way,
agree. I think
quote
it's
unquote,
I
a
think
man
it's
would.
just human. I think it's
Mhm.
human. I don't think it's like a sex thing. I just think it's a human thing that
Yeah.
and I think in our culture, there are cultures where, even for grief, right? Like there would be grief circles or grief rituals or grief processes that I would be able to just like it would be part of like the culture, right? It would be
Yeah.
like Sue's dad just passed. Here, we're going to circle up. Like
Yeah,
they would
there'd be
just
a
be
whole
like
thing, yeah.
there'd be a whole thing, right? Whereas, in our culture, we really need to create that space. And I think that's what you and I have learned to do is like create those rituals, create our toolbox in order to process these things. I agree. I think it's not a male or a female thing. It's just a human nature thing
Mhm.
that, that and a cultural influence of not being able to fully express emotion or feeling awkward as we do so. That's what one of my family members said, and and we just went through dad's services and she's like, it's just awkward. And I'm like, yeah, I think grief's awkward. Like, I think
It
it's an awkward in between, it just feels awkward. It feels weird. It's not someplace that you just kind of want to hang out. Right? You wanna be
yeah,
get
well,
away
because
from it.
I think because of all of those identity shifts and whatever, I mean, that is why people think they're going to start feeling quote unquote normal again. And it's like, no, babe, this
Mm.
is your new normal. Like getting comfortable with it is the goal here because you're not the same. but would you want to be the same? Would
I
you want,
agree.
life to
Right.
be exactly the way it was? Like, no, because they're gone. But I think, yeah, like, and the people around us also, because they don't know how to deal with their own shit. They don't know how to like support us. And if this is like your first major loss, it's hard to know kind of too what support you need. It's culturally we're not doing enough for sure around grief because
Mhm.
we're very like, I mean, 3 days bereavement leave. You know what I mean? Like that's
And that's what this family member got. She got 3 days of bereavement.
yep. That's so unfair because now since COVID, funerals don't happen super quickly anymore. Um,
Mhm.
maybe they do in your state. In ours, it's I haven't seen one. Used to you could pass on a Monday and your services be Wednesday. Like that it was
Mhm.
so easy. And it is speeding up a little bit now, but like for a while I was seeing funerals a month later and just because I was still working in hospice. But like you need those first couple of days to be, like, completely out of your brain because the trauma of it all is just wild, and you have some brain fog, you're tired, you're crying a lot, then you're planning services, whatever. Like, you need at least 5 days, at least, before you have to go be responsible for tasks at work. I just think it's so gross that this is our standard, but I
Mhm.
mean, it shows, like, how we value things like taking care of ourselves in this country.
Yeah, and I acknowledge people like, Anderson Cooper has a grief podcast. It's called All There Is, and that was his experience. His experience was, he lost he lost his dad at 10, he lost his brother to suicide at 21, he
Yeah.
lost his mom, and after he lost his mom, he was like, I haven't processed any of this. All I've done is, like, get back to work, right? All I've done
Yeah.
is try to avoid it, try to stuff it away, try to pretend it's not there. And so, I think that's the beautiful thing is finding these outlets, finding these resources, not only grief related, just emotion in general of, like, how you process. I saw you have quite a few resources yourself on that, Melissa. I think it's gorgeous, worksheets, journaling, um, I do it through group coaching, group time, meditation. I have rituals. I love rituals. I love the name
Yes, me
rituals.
too. Me
You
too.
know, it just sounds warm. It sounds inviting. It sounds healing. It sounds like something I want to come back to.
Mhm.
So I think there's so many resources for people out there to create the culture that they want to create, which I think is what you and I are up to, creating this
Absolutely.
culture that it's safe to be instead of always do. It's safe to express that all emotion has a message if we're willing to listen to it, and
Mhm.
feel through it. Right.
I love that. Well, man, I've loved having you today. Before we go, where can we find you?
At my website, drsumccready.com. And right there, you'll find Take the Quiz. And I would love for you to take the quiz. I think it's fun. It's a fun gift to yourself to learn about your gifts, right? And then also maybe some of the challenges. And then I give 8 ways for you to move through those. So
I
yeah.
love that. That's a good resource. Thank you. And I'll
Thank
make
you,
sure that I
Melissa.
include your links in my show notes and stuff. But I've loved having you so much. I really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you for being authentically you. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna push stop if you'll hang out for one
Emotionally unavailable.
Hey, make sure you've given the show a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're listening to if you haven't already. And check out my website, empoweredwithmelisahepner.org, or my link tree on Instagram at melissa.hepner to check out my latest offers or workshops. All right, that's it from me. So make sure that you check out the show notes for links. And until next time, let's all just keep swimming.
INDEPE and cut.